Look, I have seen a lot of things in my 300 cycles serving the Eternal Dominion. I have watched entire star systems kneel before our might. I have seen species beg for mercy, offer their treasures, surrender their children, but never, and I mean never, had I seen something quite as pathetic as the creature standing in chains before Queen Velkara that day. The human. They called her Katya Volkov, though the name meant nothing to us then. Just another designation for just another piece of meat from that insignificant blue marble they called Earth. She stood there in the center of our throne room aboard the Crimson Fang, our greatest warship, looking so small, so fragile, so utterly breakable. Her skin was pale, almost translucent under our crimson lighting. Her hair, dark as the void between stars, hung in matted strands around her face. The restraints on her wrists hummed with enough energy to incapacitate a Thorian bullbeast. Yet she stood there like she was waiting for tea service. Queen Velkara reclined on her obsidian throne, all 7 feet of scaled magnificence, her forearms draped casually across the armrests. Her eyes, those twin pools of liquid gold, studied the human with the kind of bored amusement one might reserve for an insect doing a particularly funny dance before you crush it. The queen's crest, that magnificent crown of bioluminescent spines, pulsed with lazy purple light. She was not impressed. Neither was the rest of the council, if I am being honest. General Faxron stood to the queen's right, his massive frame encased in ceremonial battle armor that had seen actual battle on 40 conquered worlds. His mandibles clicked with barely contained disgust. To the left, High Advisor Shendra's tentacles writhed with what I recognized as contempt. The rest of us, the lesser council members, the military attaches, the various hangers-on who populated Velkara's court, we all shared the same thought. This was humanity's best? This fragile, soft-skinned, single-hearted creature, the species that had somehow managed to send out desperate transmission after desperate transmission, begging the galaxy for peace, for mercy, for understanding, the same species that had barely mastered faster-than-light travel, that still fought among themselves over resources and imaginary lines on their planet's surface. Oh, how we laughed. So, Queen Velkara's voice resonated through the throne room, each word dripping with amusement that bordered on genuine curiosity. This is a human. This is what crawled out of Earth's gravity well, thinking it could play among the stars. She leaned forward, her secondary arms gesturing dismissively. Tell me, little creature, do all of your kind look so easily broken, or are you special? The human, this Katya, did not flinch, did not tremble, did not do any of the things prey is supposed to do when faced with an apex predator. She just stood there, those strange blue eyes fixed on the queen, with an expression I could not quite read. Not fear, certainly, not even respect, which frankly offended me on the queen's behalf. It almost looked like patience. Your Majesty, General Faxron rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. Perhaps we should dispense with the pleasantries and move directly to the interrogation. This specimen was captured during the raid on their colony vessel. She may have information about Earth's defensive capabilities, laughable as they may be. Velkara waved a hand dismissively, her claws catching the light. Where is the fun in that, General? How often do we get to examine such a primitive species up close? Look at her. No natural armor, no venomous glands, no enhanced musculature, no redundant organ, just soft tissue wrapped around fragile bones. I could tear her apart with one hand. Literally. You could. Your Majesty. High Advisor Shendra agreed, her voice carrying that syrupy tone she used when she agreed with everything. The humans are remarkable only in their unremarkability, weak, short-lived, prone to disease and injury. They cannot even regenerate lost limbs. How such a species survived its own evolution is the real mystery. More laughter rippled through the council. I joined in, naturally. It was expected, but Katya Volkov just stood there, and if I did not know better, I would swear the corner of her mouth twitched upward, just slightly, like she knew something we did not. That should have been our first warning. Queen Velkara rose from her throne, and when she moved it was with the fluid grace of something that had never known fear, never known defeat. She descended the steps slowly, each footfall echoing through the chamber like a death knell. The human watched her approach with those unsettling blue eyes, calm as still water, and I felt something twist in my stomach, something that might have been unease, though I dismissed it immediately. Let us begin simply, the queen said, circling Katya like a predator sizing up wounded prey. Tell me about Earth's military capabilities, your weapons, your fleets, your defensive installations. Make this easy on yourself, human. I can be merciful when I choose to be. Katya's head tilted slightly, almost curiously. When she spoke, her voice was steady, clear, completely devoid of the terror that should have been choking her throat. "You want to know about our defenses? That is an interesting question, Your Majesty. May I ask why you need to ask at all?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. General Faxeron's mandibles clacked together sharply, a sound of pure aggression. "You dare question the Queen? You will answer, or we will extract the information from what remains of your neural tissue after we peel it from your skull, layer by screaming layer." Faxeron Velkara held up one hand, though her eyes never left Katya. "Let her speak. I find her boldness almost, what is the word, adorable, like watching a juvenile predator puff itself up before its first real hunt." She leaned closer to Katya, so close their faces were mere inches apart. "You were captured 3 cycles ago when we raided your pathetic colony ship, the Meridian Hope. 23 of your kind, trying to establish a foothold in the outer reaches, redestroyed your vessel in under 4 minutes. Most of your crew died in the initial assault, the rest begged for their lives. I remembered that raid. It had been almost disappointingly easy. Their ship had shields, yes, but nothing that could withstand even a fraction of our firepower. Their weapons had barely scratched our hull plating. We had breached their vessel expecting resistance, some kind of fight, but instead found panicked civilians, scrambling for escape pods that we simply, well, did not allow to launch. 23 humans captured, now only 1 remained." "I remember," Katya said softly, and for the first time something flickered across her face. Not fear, though. Something else. Something that made my scales itch. "I remember every single one of them. Every name, every face, every voice. I remember exactly how long they screamed before you killed them." High Advisor Chandra's tentacles coiled tighter. "Your Majesty, this creature shows signs of psychological damage. Perhaps the trauma of watching her species mates die has broken whatever primitive mind she possesses. We are wasting time." But Velkara seemed fascinated now, her crest pulsing with brighter colors. "Broken? She does not look broken to me. She looks, and correct me if I am wrong, almost amused." The Queen's voice dropped lower, dangerous. "What do you find funny about your situation, human? You stand alone, in chains, aboard a warship that could glass your entire planet in a matter of hours. Your people are scattered, weak, primitive. You have no leverage, no hope, no future. So tell me, what could possibly be amusing?" Katya smiled then, actually smiled, and it was not the smile of someone who had accepted death. It was the smile of someone who knew something wonderful, something terrible, something we could not possibly understand. "You really do not know anything about us, do you?" she said quietly. "You saw our colony ship, full of civilians, families, scientists, and you thought that was representative of humanity. You thought that was our military." "You have a military?" General Faxeron scoffed. "We have monitored your transmissions, studied your broadcasts. You spend more time fighting among yourselves than preparing for external threats. Your species cannot even unify your own planet, let alone present a credible defensive force." "That part is true," Katya admitted, and her smile grew wider. "We do fight among ourselves. Constantly, actually. Over everything. Resources, territory, ideology, religion, politics. Which sports team is superior? We have fought thousands of wars just on our own world, tens of thousands if you count all the little ones." Velkara laughed, a sound like shattering crystal. "And you think this makes you strong? You are so weak you cannot even stop killing each other, and yet you expect us to fear you." "Fear me?" Katya's eyes glittered with something that made my blood run cold. "Oh no, Your Majesty. I do not expect you to fear me. Not yet, anyway. But you asked about our defenses, and I think there is something you should understand first, something important about humans that your intelligence clearly missed." "And what is that?" the Queen asked, her amusement now tinged with something else. Irritation, perhaps, that this prey was not behaving as prey should. Katya's smile never wavered. "You need to understand what we are before you can understand what we have built to protect it. You need to know our history, our nature, because without that context, Your Majesty, you are going to make a terrible, terrible mistake." Queen Velkara settled back on her throne, all 4 arms spreading wide in a gesture of theatrical patience. "Very well, human. Entertain us with your species' sordid history. Tell us of your glorious achievements, your mighty conquests. I could use a good laugh before we resume the actual interrogation." The council chuckled, a chorus of clicks, hisses and guttural rumbles that echoed through the chamber. "I admit, I was curious despite myself. What could this fragile creature possibly say that would matter? Katya straightened, despite her chains, and when she spoke, her voice carried through the throne room with unexpected strength. We have been killing each other for as long as we have had the capacity to hold a weapon. Longer, actually. Before we had tools, we used rocks, sticks, our own hands. We are very good at it. How primitive, High Advisor Chandra murmured, her tentacles writhing with disdain. Primitive? Katya's smile widened. Perhaps, but effective. Let me tell you about a war we called World War I. We fought it with early industrial technology, before we even left our planet's surface. Trenches stretching for miles, poison gas, machine guns, artillery that could reduce flesh and bone to nothing. 20 million dead in 4 years. 20 million of our own kind, killed by our own kind, over lines on a map. General Thaxaron snorted, a wet, contemptuous sound. 20 million? That is barely a skirmish. The Dominion's conquest of Theta Prime alone claimed 40 million lives, and we considered that a minor engagement. Oh, I am not finished, Katya said, and there was something almost cheerful in her tone now. 20 years later we did it again. World War II, but this time we had gotten better at killing. More efficient. 65 million dead. We built factories, actual factories, dedicated solely to extermination. We developed bombers that could level entire cities in a single night. We created weapons so terrible that when we finally used them, 2 entire cities vanished in columns of fire that reached into the sky like the fists of angry gods. The throne room had gone quieter now. Not silent, but the mocking laughter had died down to uncertain murmurs. Nuclear weapons, Katya continued, her voice almost conversational. We split the atom and immediately weaponized it, because of course we did. And you want to know the funny part? After we saw what those weapons could do, after we saw the shadows of people burned into walls, the radiation sickness, the genetic damage that would last generations, did we stop? Did we say perhaps this is too much, perhaps we have gone too far? I assume not, Velcora said, though her tone had lost some of its mocking edge. We built more, Katya said simply. Thousands more, bigger, more powerful, more destructive. We built enough nuclear weapons to sterilize our entire planet dozens of times over. We pointed them at each other for decades, every major nation with their fingers on the trigger, knowing that if anyone launched first everyone would die. We called it mutually assured destruction, and we lived with that reality hanging over our heads for generations. That is insane, someone in the council muttered. I think it was me. Yes. Katya agreed pleasantly. Yes, it is. But here is the thing. Here is what you need to understand. We did not use them. We came close, so close, multiple times. But we held back. Do you know how much self-control that takes? How much discipline? To have the power to end everything, to end your enemies completely, to solve all your problems with fire that burns hotter than stars, and to choose not to. Velcora leaned forward, her crest pulsing with colors I had never seen before. Confusion perhaps, or something darker. You are telling me your species is suicidal and restrained simultaneously. That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense, Katya said, and her smile was almost gentle now, like a teacher explaining something to a slow student. We know exactly how dangerous we are. We know what we are capable of when pushed. We have spent our entire history pushing ourselves, testing our limits, seeing just how far we can go before we break, and every single time we surprise ourselves. This is just the ramblings of a broken creature, General Thaxaron growled, though he sounded less certain now. What does any of this have to do with your defenses? You have told us nothing but stories of self-destruction. You have only proven that humans are too stupid and violent to survive in a civilized galaxy. The laughter started again, but it was weaker this time, more forced. Katya nodded slowly, like she had expected this response. You are right. We are violent. We are aggressive. We are stubborn to the point of self-destruction. We hold grudges that last centuries. We remember every slight, every betrayal, every injury. We write songs about our grievances and teach them to our children. We build monuments to our wars and tell stories about them for thousands of years. Pathetic, Chandra hissed. And yet, Katya continued, her voice rising now, cutting through the mockery like a blade, we are still here, despite everything we have done to ourselves, every war, every weapon, every attempt at mutual annihilation. We are still here. We survived ourselves, Your Majesty. We survived our own worst impulses. Do you understand what that means? Velcora's golden eyes narrowed. It means you were lucky. No, Katya said. And her smile was absolutely radiant now, bright and terrible and full of something that made every scale on my body stand on end. It means we are dangerous. Not to you. Not yet. To ourselves, yes, but if we can survive ourselves, if we can hold back from destroying everything we love when we have the power to do it, what do you think we will do when someone else threatens what is ours? The throne room had gone completely silent now, and Katya Volkov stood there in her chains, smiling like she had already won a game we did not know we were playing. Queen Valkyra rose from her throne again, but this time the movement was different. Sharp, aggressive, lacking the languid confidence from before. Her crest flared bright crimson, a color I recognized as anger mixed with something else, something that might have been unease. Enough, she snapped, her voice cracking like a whip through the chamber. Enough of your riddles and your stories. You stand here alone, defeated, captured, and yet you speak as though you have some hidden advantage. You talk about your species' capacity for self-destruction as though it is a strength rather than the obvious weakness it is. So tell me, human, why? Why are you so stubborn? Why do you refuse to show the fear you should be drowning in right now? Katya's smile finally faded, replaced by something more serious, more thoughtful. She looked at the queen with those unsettling blue eyes, and when she spoke her voice had lost its mocking edge. Now it was simply honest, direct, almost gentle. Because you have made a fundamental error in understanding what humans are, Your Majesty. You looked at us and saw individuals, separate beings, competing for resources, fighting among ourselves, and yes, on the surface that is what we appear to be, but you missed something crucial, something that defines us more than any weapon we have ever built, any war we have ever fought. And what is that? General Thaxeron demanded, his massive frame shifting with barely controlled aggression. We bond, Katya said simply. We form connections, not just family bonds, not just reproductive pairs. We bond with anyone, anything, for any reason or sometimes no reason at all. We meet a stranger and within hours consider them a friend. We adopt creatures from other species and love them as our own children. We form teams, squads, units, crews. We create families out of nothing but shared experience and mutual respect. High Advisor Chandra's tentacles coiled in confusion. All species form social bonds. This is basic evolutionary biology. Pack structures, hive minds, tribal groupings. You are not special in this regard. No, Katya agreed, but we take it further, much further. We bond with our enemies after we defeat them. We bond with machines, with artificial intelligence, with pets that cannot even speak our language. We bond with ideas, with causes, with places. A human will die for their bondmates without hesitation, without question, without even considering it a sacrifice. We call it loyalty, and it is the most powerful force in our psychology. I did not understand. None of us did. The concept she was describing made no tactical sense, no evolutionary sense. Loyalty was a weakness, a limitation. It clouded judgment, created inefficiencies, made you predictable. That sounds like a defect, I said, speaking up for the first time. A genetic flaw that makes your species exploitable. If you form such strong attachments, then all one needs to do is threaten those you are bonded to, and you become completely controllable. Katya turned her gaze on me, and I regretted speaking immediately. Those blue eyes were like looking into deep water, beautiful and terrifying because you could not see the bottom. You are half right, she said softly. Threaten what we love. And yes, we become predictable, but not controllable, never controllable. You do not get compliance when you threaten a human's pack. You get rage. You get vengeance. You get someone who will burn down your entire empire just to make sure you cannot hurt anyone else they care about. You get someone who will spend their last breath making sure you regret ever being born. The silence that followed was suffocating. Valkyra descended the steps again, moving closer to Katya, her forearms flexing with barely restrained violence. You speak of vengeance, of rage, of loyalty. These are emotions, human. Base, primitive, easily manipulated. The Dominion conquered the galaxy, because we do not allow emotions to cloud our judgment. We are efficient, calculated, superior. Superior. Katya's smile returned, but it was different now. Colder, sharper. Let me ask you something, Your Majesty. Have you ever heard of wolves? The question seemed to come from nowhere, jarring in its randomness. Valkyra's crest flickered with confused colors. Wolves, some manner of predator from your world, I assume. What possible relevance does this have? Everything, Katya said, and her voice had changed completely now. Gone was the patient teacher, the calm prisoner. Now there was something else in her tone, something primal and dangerous. Wolves are pack hunters from Earth, smaller than many predators. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most individually powerful, but they hunt in packs. They coordinate, they communicate, they never ever abandon their own. A wolf pack will fight off threats 10 times their size to protect a single pup. They will track prey for days, weeks, wearing them down, never giving up, never stopping. Fascinating, Chandra said with obvious sarcasm. A biology lesson about primitive Earth fauna. How does this help you, human? Katya's smile was gone completely now. Her expression was hard, cold, absolutely serious in a way that made my heart beat faster. Humans are not wolves, she said quietly. But we learned from them. We studied them, admired them, tried to emulate them. We saw in wolves something we recognized in ourselves. That pack mentality, that loyalty, that absolute refusal to abandon your own no matter the cost. We took that lesson and made it part of our identity. We built it into our military doctrine, our social structures, our cultural mythology. So you fancy yourselves predators? Velkara scoffed, though her voice lacked its earlier confidence. That changes nothing. You are still alone, still captured, still helpless. Am I? Katya asked, and the temperature in the room seemed to plummet. Your Majesty, let me ask you something important. Something you should have asked yourself before you brought me here, before you killed the others from the Meridian Hope, before you decided to raid a human vessel in the first place. What question? The Queen demanded. Katya lifted her chin and her eyes blazed with something terrible and beautiful and absolutely terrifying. Did you really think I was alone? The alarms shrieked through the Crimson Fang like the death cries of some massive beast. Red emergency lighting flooding the throne room in pulses that made everything look like it was drowning in blood. My combat implants immediately began feeding me data, threat assessments, damage reports, and what I saw made my blood turn to ice. Hull breaches, multiple decks, unauthorized entry signatures, weapons fire detected in the lower corridors. But Katya did not even flinch at the chaos erupting around us. She simply stood there, calm as ever, and slowly, deliberately, reached up with her bound hands to push back the matted dark hair from the left side of her neck. And there, burned or tattooed or somehow branded into her skin, was a mark, a sigil, the image of a wolf's head, stylized and fierce, its mouth open in a silent howl. The detail was extraordinary, every line sharp and precise, but it was the eyes of the wolf that caught my attention. They seemed to gleam with their own light, as if something alive was trapped beneath her skin. Do you see this? Katya asked, her voice cutting through the screaming alarms with eerie clarity. Do you know what this means? Queen Velkara's crest was flashing through a rainbow of colors now, confusion and anger and something that might have been fear all bleeding together. It is a marking, body art. Your species decorates your skin with meaningless symbols. We know this already. Meaningless, Katya laughed, and the sound was harsh, almost cruel. Your intelligence is worse than I thought. This is not decoration, Your Majesty. This is identification. This is a warning. This is a promise. General Thaxaron moved closer, his massive form blocking the emergency lighting, his mandibles clicking with aggressive confusion. Explain yourself, human, before I tear that mark from your flesh along with everything attached to it. The wolf sigil, Katya said, her fingers tracing the edges of the mark almost lovingly, is worn by members of the Lunar Fang, Earth's most elite special operations unit. We are not soldiers, not in the way you understand the term. We are not peacekeepers or colony guards or defensive forces. We are hunters, trackers, retrievers. We are the ones they send when something precious has been taken and needs to be brought back home. We are the ones they send when diplomacy has failed, and someone needs to learn what happens when you hurt humanity's pack. The throne room had gone silent except for the alarms and the distant sounds of combat filtering through the walls. Every member of the council was staring at Katya now, at that glowing sigil on her neck, and I could see the realization dawning on their faces like a slow, terrible sunrise. You think your little mark frightens us? Velkara snarled, but her voice cracked slightly. You think having a tribal tattoo makes you dangerous? I have seen 1,000 warrior cults across 1,000 worlds, all with their symbols and their oaths, and their meaningless traditions. They all died screaming. Did they? Katya tilted her head. Did they come back for their own? Did they track you across star systems, hack your communications, infiltrate your flagships, and come to collect what you took from them? Because that is what we do, Your Majesty. That is what the Lunar Fang does. We do not surrender. We do not negotiate. We do not accept losses. You took 23 humans from the Meridian Hope. You killed 22 of them. She paused, and her smile was absolutely vicious now. And now, the Lunar Fang has come to collect the last one. You are bluffing, High Advisor Shundra hissed, though her tentacles were coiling tighter and tighter around herself in a defensive posture. You are a prisoner. You were unconscious when we captured you. You could not have sent a signal, could not have communicated our location, could not have been transmitting a constant locator beacon from a subdermal implant that you never bothered to scan for. Katya interrupted. Could not have been the bait in a trap that you walked into with your eyes wide open. Your Majesty, I was not captured. I surrendered. I let you take me. I let you bring me aboard your flagship into the heart of your command structure, right to the throne room where all your leadership is conveniently gathered in one easily breachable location. The sigil on her neck was definitely glowing now, a soft blue-white light that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, not bioluminescence like our species possessed, but something else, something technological. That mark, I whispered, finally understanding. It is not just a tattoo, it is a beacon, a transmitter. Among other things, Katya agreed, but mostly yes. It has been broadcasting my location since the moment you brought me aboard. Every corridor I walked, every deck I passed through, every security checkpoint, every guard position, every weak point in your ship's structure. My pack knows exactly where I am. They know exactly how to reach me, and they know exactly how to tear this ship apart to do it. The sounds of combat were getting closer now, echoing through the walls. Weapon fire, explosions, screaming. The screaming of my people, I realized with dawning horror. Velkara's forearms were trembling now, though whether from rage or fear I could not tell. One ship, one team. You expect us to believe that a single human strike force can threaten the Crimson Fang? We have 3,000 warriors aboard this vessel, 3,000 of the Dominion's finest. Satya's eyes met the Queen's, and in them I saw something that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Pity. Your Majesty, she said softly, almost gently, you still do not understand. The Lunar Fang does not send teams. We send packs, and a wolf pack, once it has caught the scent of blood, does not stop until every threat to the pack is eliminated. The sigil flared brighter, pulsing 3 times in rapid succession. A signal, and the throne room doors exploded inward in a shower of molten metal and superheated plasma. I have fought in 17 major campaigns across 12 star systems. I have seen orbital bombardments, planetary invasions, fleet actions that stretched across light minutes of space. I thought I understood combat. I thought I knew what war looked like. I was wrong. The doors did not just explode, they ceased to exist. One moment they were solid reinforced titanium alloy, rated to withstand direct plasma cannon fire, and the next, they were just molten slag and shrapnel spraying across the throne room floor. Through the smoke and flames came figures in armor, human-sized but moving with a speed and precision that defied everything I knew about their species. They were not running, they were flowing, like liquid death poured through the breach, each one moving in perfect coordination with the others, weapons raised, targeting lasers painting the council members with red dots that promised swift annihilation. The lead figure was taller than the others, broader, his armor matte black with silver accents that caught the emergency lighting like frozen starlight. His helmet was smooth, featureless except for a glowing blue visor that swept across the room with mechanical precision. On his shoulder pauldron, painted in silver, was a wolf's head identical to the sigil on Katya's neck. Contact. His voice came through external speakers, deep and calm and absolutely devoid of emotion. Primary objective located. Secondary objectives identified. Rules of engagement are weapons free. Protect the pack. Protect the pack, the other humans responded in perfect unison. And then the throne room became a slaughterhouse. General Thaxron was the first to react, his combat training overriding his shock. He lunged forward, his massive clawed hands reaching for the nearest human, a smaller figure whose armor was painted with red streaks. He was fast, faster than any human should have been able to track. The human was faster. She dropped under his grasp, her body moving with fluid grace, and as she passed beneath him she drove something into his leg joint. Thaxron roared, his leg suddenly refusing to support his weight, and before he could recover she had rolled away, her weapon coming up to fire 3 precise shots into his armor's weak points. Points that should have been classified information, points that we had never shared with anyone outside the Dominion. The general crashed to the floor, still alive but paralyzed, his armor systems shorting out with electrical sparks. 3 seconds. The engagement had lasted 3 seconds. High Advisor Shendra tried to use her psionic abilities, those mental tendrils that could crush minds and bend wills. She reached out with her consciousness toward the humans, trying to overwhelm them with psychic pressure, to make them turn their weapons on each other. Nothing happened. The humans kept advancing, kept firing, kept moving in that terrifying coordinated dance. One of them, noticing Shendra's attempted attack, raised a strange device and pressed a button. A pulse of electromagnetic energy washed over the advisor and she shrieked in agony as her psionic abilities turned inward, feedback looping through her neural pathways until she collapsed, writhing on the floor. Psionic countermeasures effective, the human reported calmly. Target neutralized. I tried to run. I am not ashamed to admit it. I saw what was happening, saw the council being dismantled with surgical precision, saw warriors who had survived decades of combat being dropped like insects, and every survival instinct I possessed screamed at me to flee. I made it perhaps 5 steps before something hit me in the back. Not a bullet but some kind of impact round that felt like being kicked by a cargo hauler. The air exploded from my lungs and I went down hard, gasping, my vision swimming. A human stood over me, weapon pointed at my head, and I waited for death. It did not come. Non-combatant, the human said. Restrain and ignore. Restraints materialized around my limbs, some kind of quick-setting polymer that locked me in place, and then the human simply moved on, leaving me alive but helpless on the floor. They were not killing everyone. They were being selective, precise. Combatants were neutralized. Leadership was targeted. Everyone else was simply restrained and bypassed. This was not rage. This was not vengeance. This was a surgical strike executed with flawless precision. Queen Velkara had retreated back to her throne, all 4 arms raised, energy crackling around her claws. She was powerful, enhanced with biomodifications that made her nearly invincible. She could tear through hull plating with her bare hands, could shrug off small arms fire, could regenerate from injuries that would kill lesser beings. The tall human, the leader, walked toward her with slow, measured steps. Weapon fire erupted around him as the Queen's personal guard finally entered the throne room. But his team provided covering fire, their shots so accurate that each one found gaps in armor, weak points in shielding, vulnerable spots that should have been impossible to hit in the chaos of combat. The leader did not even break stride. "You," Velkara hissed, her voice filled with more venom than I had ever heard from her. "You dare attack the Eternal Dominion? You dare assault a queen in her own throne room? Your species will be exterminated for this insult. Every world you have colonized will burn. Every human in the galaxy will die screaming." The human stopped a few feet from Katya, his weapon never wavering from the queen. When he spoke, his voice was still calm, still emotionless, but somehow that made it more terrifying. "My name is Commander Marcus Hale, Lunar Fang, First Pack. You took one of ours. You killed 22 civilians under our protection. You tortured our packmate and thought there would be no consequences." He reached up and removed his helmet with one smooth motion, revealing a scarred face with cold gray eyes that held absolutely no mercy. "You were wrong." Behind him, the rest of his team had formed a defensive perimeter, weapons trained on every entrance, every threat. The throne room was secured. The council was neutralized. The queen was isolated. And Katya Volkov stood in the center of it all, her chains hanging loose, the restraints having been deactivated remotely the moment her pack arrived. She smiled at Velkara, and it was the smile of a predator that had finally cornered its prey. "I tried to warn you," Katya said softly. "I tried to explain, but you did not listen. You thought we were weak. You thought we were prey." Commander Hale moved to Katya's side, pressing a small device against her restraints. They fell away instantly, clattering to the floor. "You thought wrong," Katya finished. The moment the restraints fell from Katya's wrists, everything about her changed. The calm prisoner, the patient teacher, the seemingly helpless captive, all of that vanished like smoke. She rolled her shoulders, cracked her neck, and suddenly she was moving with the same lethal grace as the rest of her pack. One of the humans tossed her a weapon, a compact rifle that she caught without looking. Another threw her a combat knife that she snatched from the air and immediately drove into the throat of a guard who had been trying to flank Commander Hale. The guard went down gurgling, his blood spraying across the obsidian floor, and Katya did not even glance at him as he died. She was a wolf that had been caged, and now the cage was open. Exfil route is clear, one of the pack members reported, his voice crackling through their communication system. Charges are set on primary power conduits, engine room and life support. We have maybe 4 minutes before the Crimson Fang tears itself apart. 4 minutes. They had infiltrated our flagship, fought through 3,000 warriors, reached the throne room and planted demolition charges throughout the ship, all in the time it had taken for this conversation to unfold. Queen Velcara seemed to realize this at the same moment I did. Her golden eyes went wide, her crest flashing through colors of pure panic. You are destroying the ship. You will kill everyone aboard, including yourselves. No, Commander Hale said simply, ejecting a spent power cell from his weapon and slamming in a fresh one with practiced efficiency. We will be gone. Your crew will have time to evacuate if they move quickly. Maybe, but the Crimson Fang itself, your precious flagship, your symbol of dominance that dies today. He gestured to his team, and they began moving toward the breach they had created, their formation tight, their movement synchronized. Katya fell in with them naturally, like she had never been separated, like the past 3 cycles had been nothing but a brief inconvenience. But before they left, Commander Hale turned back to the Queen one final time. You wanted to know about humanity's defenses, he said, his voice carrying across the ruined throne room. You wanted to understand what you were facing. So let me make this very clear. We do not have the largest fleet in the galaxy. We do not have the most advanced weapon. We do not have the numbers or the territory or the resources of the Eternal Dominion. He paused, letting his words sink in. But we have each other. We have loyalty that transcends logic. We have a pack mentality that you cannot break, cannot corrupt, cannot defeat. You kill one of ours, we come for you. You hurt our families, we hunt you across the stars. You take what belongs to us, we take everything from you. That is humanity's defense. That is our strength. We are not the biggest predator in the galaxy, but we are the most persistent. We are the ones who never ever stop coming. Velcara's forearms were trembling now, her crest completely drained of color. This is not over. The Dominion will retaliate. We will find Earth. You will do nothing, Katya interrupted, her voice cold as the void between stars. Because you are going to deliver a message for us. You are going to return to your empire, to your fleets, to your conquered worlds, and you are going to tell them exactly what happened here today. You are going to tell them that the Eternal Dominion attacked a human colony vessel, killed civilians, and tortured a prisoner, and you are going to tell them what happened next. She stepped closer to the Queen, close enough that I could see the wolf sigil on her neck still glowing, still pulsing with that eerie light. You are going to tell them that humanity came for their own. You are going to tell them that we infiltrated your flagship, neutralized your elite guard, demolished your command structure and walked away without losing a single member of our pack. You are going to tell them that this is what happens when you threaten the pack. The alarms had changed now, a new pattern that I recognized with sick certainty. Evacuation protocols. The charges were armed. The ship was dying. Move out, Commander Hale ordered, and the Lunar Fang began their withdrawal, each member covering the others, moving like a single organism with many limbs. Within seconds they were gone, vanished back through the breach they had created, leaving behind a throne room full of wounded, restrained and terrified council members. And me. Still locked in polymer restraints. Still lying on the floor. Still trying to process what I had just witnessed. Queen Velcara stood alone on the steps of her throne, her magnificent armor scorched and dented, her crest hanging limp, her golden eyes staring at the space where the humans had been. They were supposed to be weak, she whispered, so quietly I almost did not hear her. The intelligence report said they were weak, fragile, easy to conquer. I finally understood then as emergency crews rushed into the throne room to begin evacuations, as the ship groaned and shuddered around us, as everything we had believed about humanity crumbled to dust. The humans were not weak. They had never been weak. They had simply been waiting, watching, letting us make the first move. They had let us reveal ourselves, let us show our tactics, let us think we understood them, and then they had taught us the truth. 3 hours later, I floated in an escape pod watching the Crimson Fang tear itself apart in a series of cascading explosions that lit up the darkness of space like a newborn star. Thousands of pods surrounded me, the scattered remnants of our crew, all of us saved by the humans' precise timing. They could have killed us all. They had the power, the positioning, the opportunity. They chose mercy, but they made sure we would never forget the lesson. Humanity was not prey. They were pack hunters, and they had just reminded the galaxy why wolves, despite being smaller and weaker than many predators, had never gone extinct. They survived because they hunted together. They protected their own. They never gave up, they never forgot, and they never ever forgave those who hurt the pack. Somewhere in the debris field, a small human ship flickered into faster-than-light travel, carrying Katya Volkov and her pack back home, back to Earth, back to their territory, and on every remaining communication channel on every frequency the Dominion monitored, a single message played on repeat. A wolf's howl. Long, mournful, defiant. A warning to anyone who would listen. The pack had spoken.